Hello and welcome to Future Imperfect. I'm Admiral Phillips, and just to kind of bring this up to light, we've had the first two episodes of Star Trek Discovery. So what does everyone think of this show? I had to say that I was a little apprehensive going into it. The intro is still a little weird. I'm having a hard time getting used to this cartoony look instead of seeing space, like actual space, like every other Star Trek show. But it's still an improvement over Enterprise's intro, so I give it that. It's got a little bit of nostalgia mixed in the music. Seeing that in there. And I didn't mind the intro part. Getting into the actual episode, current continuity or not, this looks like it's ripped right out of the Abrams verse. The Klingons look like undead Klingons or like White Walkers from Game of Thrones. Between that spiky armor and the blue-faced Klingons with the no hair and no differences in their facial features or colors for the most part. I mean, yeah, you have an albino Klingon, which okay, whatever, that's possible, but they show all 24 houses in this, not to give any spoilers, but they all look the same. There's no difference. There's no way that these could be like the TNG or TOS Klingons even mixed in with this group. If you're going to have 24 houses, have them all look different. But yeah, it was a little insane there. I'm going to make a theory. We'll see if it pans out. And just remember this episode if you hear it. And if you do, make sure you cut that segment or you take the timestamp and send it to me if this does happen at the end of the season. There's supposed to be this big war between the Federation and the Klingons. I'm guessing that the reason why all the Klingons are brown now and they look more humanoid with the exception of the head ridge and the nose ridges is I'm going to say that somehow they're going to take some of Michael Burnham's DNA and do this weird amalgamation between their own DNA, and then that's how we get modern Klingons. That or she's going to have a kid that's that new generation. One of the two. I'm betting it's going to be a DNA theft type thing, though. So we'll see if that pans out. It's not harebrained or anything, but we'll there's going to be some genetic pullings in there. Plus the sarcophagus stuff, the cloak, the way that they handle the dead. The Klingons talk like they have marbles in their mouth. Their nose prosthetic it throws me. It looks like some kind of a like a rhino horn type thing that's like really close to the nose instead of like the ridges. I really hate the fact that these are very Abrams looking. There was a couple lens flares which kind of irritated me. I don't know. I still think it's way too shiny to be in this time period. I think that they would have been better off doing post TNG era, like the 25th century. But Star Trek Online, I guess, does that for you. So really, I almost wish they would have just kept with the Abrams verse for the TV thing and kept that, and then that would have just explained everything and everybody would have accepted it more. That's kind of my take on it. And then you get a little teaser at the end of the second episode of what's to come for the rest of the season. So it's a little bit of surprising stuff. It's way too dark, though. I find myself... I enjoyed it, but I was constantly kind of looking to see what was going on. I did try out the CBS Access app on my phone. I signed up for CBS All Access just for the free trial, just to kind of see how it was going, to give the first two episodes a taste. And I'll be able to see the third episode on that free trial before it makes me pay, which I have already canceled it, just to preface this, because of a multitude of reasons. One, I'm not paying that amount of money for the show. I just signed up so I could watch the first two episodes. Two, the app played the same ads over and over, and it kept crashing on my phone, would not run, told me there was bandwidth issues, and because you can't adjust the bandwidth of the video. You can't change it from whatever format it is. So I'm assuming it was HD. You can't throttle it. You can't change it at all on their app, which is horrible design. And it kept crashing on me. Like I said, I couldn't watch it, so I had to boot up my computer. I was just planning on laying in bed watching this on my phone with my headphones in. And I had to get out my laptop just to watch it. And I watched the first 2 episodes. Saw the same ads between every commercial break. There was only 5 commercial breaks during the show, which is not really that bad, but yeah. And if you're going to do the ad-free, you have to double your amount that you're paying for CBS All Access just to go ad-free. So bad enough you're already spending the money on the app and the service. Then you're paying more to get no ads, and it's double. So, and like I said before, you can watch all the Star Trek series on Hulu and Netflix if you've already subscribed to those. So there's really no incentive for me if I'm a Star Trek watcher to get this, especially if I can march over to Fox and go watch the Orville for free. Which that show's been really good too, and they've touched on ethical issues and a lot of TNG Captain Picard-esque realms, because Bortus has a child, which all the children in that species are born male. This one was born female, and so they looked at it as like a genetic defect, and so they were kind of playing with the moral implications of deciding this for a child as a baby, and it was very thought-provoking despite the humor in the episodes. But Discovery, I didn't really find anything worth really grinning or laughing at. I felt like I was watching the J. Abrams movies on TV, which I know they're going for the cinematic thing, but I really hate that the stuff with the Klingons, how shiny everything's got to be. I like the new aliens. I liked Lieutenant Commander Suru. He's probably my favorite character so far. And it's the most unique alien on there, so I really enjoy that. There's a twist at the end of the second episode. I'm not going to spoil it. But, yeah. And then you'll find out how the conflict between the Klingons and the Federation starts, too. It's a lot of the stuff is very, I don't know, a little convenient for me, and I hate the warping. How it comes in, it's like on the screen when something warps in, and you don't hear like the classic warp or any of the stuff from the original series. The cloaking aspect is not like the original series or any of the other Trek series for that matter. It looks way too advanced. I can give it a pass on a lot of areas. Like the story is pretty solid. The leading into the next episode thing is pretty solid. It's a lot like how DS9 would end later in the series on certain story arcs. But I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I like it, which I figured I would to some degree like the show. Something about it still rubs me wrong, and I'm not quite sure where to peg it at yet. And then they have Michael Burnham going through this traumatic experience, and then she becomes more Vulcan, and then she becomes human again, and then she's like Worf when like he kind of goes nuts type of stuff, like in some situations. And especially in the preview stuff they show for like later episodes, like I know that they're gonna explain away this stuff, and I really hope that they figure it out. But I have a feeling that this show is not going to last past the first season if they cannot get this on television. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the most pirated shows this season, based on the fact that people don't want to pay for the app. And there's a lot of people that are just, frankly, done and kind of pissed off with a lot of these services creating their own thing. Instead of going the Hulu Netflix route, they're kind of shafting their viewers. And I can't say I blame them. So, and then not to mention they've got robot characters, they've got I don't. And then they've got these protective force fields, which you never really got to see before, if they even had them in the original series. At least for the on ship hull breach aspects. So I'm not exactly sure what to think about that. So what are your guys' thoughts on the new Star Trek Discovery, and what are your thoughts on the Orville? I'd really be interested in finding out what you guys think, and what you guys think about the having to sign up for the app. So, what do you guys think about the opening title too? It's strange. I'll give it that. It's strange. It kind of goes through like visuals of the Discovery, Klingon gear, Klingon weapons, Klingons, humans. It's interesting. And then they got the USS Shenzhou, which is supposed to be like an older Federation starship, and the Discovery is supposed to be basically new. I'm still kind of waiting to see what happens in the future episodes. They're going to introduce Captain Gabriel Lorca in the next episode. They have... Oh, this is one of the things that kind of irritated me too. In no other Trek series do they use holograms. Like, they were pulling some Star Wars prequel crap in this show. They had the Admiral of the Fleet showing up on the Shenzhou in a holographic projection of himself. They basically pulled the technology from like what they used in Star Trek Nemesis with Shinzon. But somehow the Federation has this technology way back then, and you never see it though before that. So I'm a little puzzled on that. So there's this article on IO9, which I found it kind of funny because they wrote, "Has everyone forgotten what Star Trek is supposed to be?" And they put, there's this weird problem that keeps popping up with Discovery, and they can't tell whose fault it is. Whether it's the journalists writing about the show who don't know its background, or the people involved in the show are just bad ambassadors for it. The way that it's being promoted, is the news cycle, whatever the cause. Discovery is constantly marketed as groundbreaking when it should be marketed as following Star Trek's footsteps. And they kind of said that it's kind of hard to tell who Discovery's for. Are they just adding a brand new thing that just has name recognition to get people that don't love Star Trek into it? What is this geared towards? They're going to have tribbles appear in this when nobody's supposed to have seen those either. They've got Harry Mudd in there, who's basically fan service. They've got another hidden sibling of Spock's in this. It basically, like, the design of everything, just like they said in this article, echoes everything showed up in J.J. Abrams' alternate universe of Star Trek. And it's so weird, being 10 years before Kirk, that they question in this article whether that there's a fairly reasonable rumor going around that show that this takes place in a third timeline, somewhere halfway between the original Prime timeline and the Kelvin timeline of the reboot movies. I would almost agree with that too. I don't see it being in the original continuity. There's too much stuff that's different. It's not a very enticing show. And the funny thing is, all these critics that they have for the show are people that are directly tied with it. They're paid. They're in CBS's back pocket, and some of them are huge fans too. But I don't know how much of it's nostalgia or how much of it is giving it a pass for the modern era or what. Myself, I don't see this as being in Prime Universe. I see this as like Abrams Universe, which I would give it a pass for that. I think that this Harberts guy that's with Discovery just is oblivious to things, because they're all saying that this is groundbreaking. There's nothing groundbreaking about it. It's the same thing that we've been getting for decades with Star Trek, between, the Federation and their ideals and the ethical rules of conflict and conduct. It's none of it's changed. There have been whole seasons on Deep Space Nine with this. There have been things on TNG with this. There have been things on Voyager with this. There's always something where they're examining Starfleet's role and the individuality of it all. And I think he's just ignorant of Star Trek's history, or like they mentioned here, being basically told to present Discovery as all new Trek. And they're saying that the latter is much more likely in the event, because his outreach to less avid fans over the avid fans, because they don't know what the Federation and Starfleet are. He's insulting avid fans who know the ideas aren't new to Trek in the slightest, which I agree. And they've had a lot of kind of dodgy communications with fans, in a sense, that unless you're all in, or you're somebody that's basically, I mean, everybody that's been previously in Trek is kind of just pandering to this new show, and it hasn't even gotten off its feet yet. I mean, I'm trying to like it. It's just I don't ever see. This is to me like what everybody thought of Enterprise back in the day. I have actually gone back and watched Enterprise. It's not great, but it's not bad either. It's not great. It's not bad either. It's the same boat. So, but there's been so much lacking in enthusiasm for what should be this awesome thing for Trek. It's been 13 years since it's been on the air. So, but it's all CBS. All of this is CBS. They've done this to themselves. So being that Netflix has ponied up for the first season for the $130 million to pay for the episodes, and CBS hasn't paid a dime, I don't see this lasting very long, if at all, like lasting a couple seasons if CBS has to pony up the money. Monday morning they had a multitude of bad press delivering when it was revealed that CBS has blocked reviews of Discovery from running before it airs, which is much like in the gaming industry. That's just somebody trying to hide something. That there's so much going against it right now. I'm trying to be positive. I promise. I'm trying. I'm going to try the third episode. I'm going to keep watching the seasons and stuff. I'm just not. I'm going to wait, or I'm going to, I don't know. I've got enough credit cards. I'll do another free trial. Maybe I'll wait, 2 weeks and then do another free trial, and then wait another 2 weeks, do another free trial, and then I'll get to watch the whole series for free. I don't know. This whole system is stupid. They need to put it on cable, or at least put it on Netflix if Netflix is ponying up. This could be massive, and there's so much. I'm going to leave this part alone, but it's kind of funny. They sell the shirts. They sell these cheap T-shirts on StarTrek.com of the uniforms, quote unquote, of Discovery, when there's nothing special to them. It's just a printed on T-shirt. There's no actual costumes. Yet you can get the original series TNG and the Kelvin universe uniforms like no other on there. I wish you could get all of the different suits, like the Star Trek The Next Generation films or DS9, the Wrath of Khan uniforms. I mean, I wish you could get all those on StarTrek.com, but you can't. I'm wondering how they're going to explain when the Enterprise does come up, because theoretically the Enterprise and the Constitution class ships were around at this time. And warning, spoiler alert for the next 30 seconds, All of these starships that go to fight against the Klingons in the second episode are blown away, destroyed, everything. So, yeah, that might account for why there's so many Constitution-class starships and Constellation-class starships and everything else at this time. Because you did get to see ships that looked like they belonged in the Deep Space Nine, the Next Generation movie universe timeline for some of the ships. So, I didn't see one Constitution-class starship. I was kind of sad about that. And the Enterprise, theoretically, has been operating under Captain Robert April to begin with, and then Captain Christopher Pike up until this point. So if they neglect to have the Enterprise at some point show up with Spock being second officer on the Enterprise, with it going through at some point, with Majel Barrett's number one on that ship and Pike as captain, it'll be blasphemy almost, because Kirk doesn't get it for 10 more years, so Spock should be involved to some level anyway. So I want to like this. I really do. I like Star Trek. It's kind of part of what made me a geek. And then they have like a tribunal thing with the court systems in the show where they're all shrouded in black and you can't see any of them. It almost reminds me of like the Rura Penthe thing on Star Trek 6, where they're kind of shrouded. Some of it just it doesn't jive with me all that well. So, but yeah, so. In another article by Screen Rant, there's no indication so far that Discovery is another reboot. It seems that some of the visuals benefit from modern day special effects, but there are divergences. The stark visual difference of the Klingons from estimated prime or established prime canon isn't explained in the first two episodes. Not to mention they showed up Klingons in Enterprise, and they look totally different. Using, and the technology on this Shenzhou doesn't line up with canon, such as holograms, with Admiral Anderson. Then there's the type of holographic technology that shouldn't exist for another century, with Deep Space Nine introduced on USS Defiant. They're kind of guessing that this may be a clue that the destruction of the Kelvin that occurred in 2233 affected the timeline of Discovery, which takes place in 2256. I'm guesstimating that this is going to fit more with the Abrams universe than what we got. I don't know. So, what do you guys think about it? I like I said, I want to cover more about the episodes themselves in the future and less about the rants and raves. But some of it was interesting, and they did talk about like Kalis and Tovacor and the when somebody dies and stuff like that. So, if they do the Klingon, if they do the Romulans, it's just game over, because in Balance of Terror, there's supposed to be kind of the first face-to-face thing with the Romulans. Like I said, I'm going to give it a pass for right now. So we'll kind of see what happens. Another thing I wanted to bring up about Discovery on Sunday night was they had an issue getting the show to air. And it was because football went too long. And it took an extra, 30, 45 minutes. I don't know. I didn't watch it live. I watched it on the CBS All Access online because I don't really watch cable. So, so the reviews came out too. CNN writes, Star Trek Discovery barely achieves liftoff. It says it's an unspectacular addition to the existing fleet of Trek-branded series. The result, creatively, makes for an awkward liftoff, one perhaps most notable for its commercial mission, which is to entice new subscribers to All Access. They're saying that it launched with a cliffhanging hour on CBS. The program's second episode and those thereafter will air on the network's fledgling streaming service, a shrewd way to attempt to hook fans and extract their hard-earned cash. Still, if that represents a fresh approach, distribution-wise, where Discovery feels weakest is in the fundamental qualities that have defined the best Trek series, namely the strength of the interplay among its characters. By that measure, this sixth live-action iteration feels a trifle clunky, especially in patches of dialogue during the initial episodes, 3 of which were previewed. I kind of agree with that about the dialogue. There really wasn't much meat there for me. Lieutenant Commander Saru was about the only one I really cared about in this whole series, and that's pretty sad to say. And he's not even the main character. Set in 2256, a decade before TOS, the program breaks ground by building its plot both around an African-American woman, Michael Burnham, and a first officer as opposed to a starship captain. And then they kind of have Sarek in there a lot. Yeah. There's... So they claim that Star Trek Discovery is second tier while on the bridge. You have your mix of aliens of Saru, and there's a deficiency of both humor and the fuel that has kept Trek going, the kind of camaraderie that characterized TNG, much less the troika of Kirk, Spock, McCoy. The series does receive a welcome infusion with the arrival of Captain Lorca in the next episode. They're saying that basically we're getting the nagging sense that this is Star Trek light. To be fair, there are enough elements at play to conclude that the show adequately makes it out of dry dock, and the time frame creates plenty of opportunities for knowing winks and flourishes aimed at the faithful growing forward, but that's fun so far as it goes, yet one would likely have to be a true Trek completist to feel sold. Based strictly on the opening flurry on signing up and anteing up for Discovery's full tour. All these people get it. They get it. And then the Hollywood Reporter gets another article about Discovery. It says, boss gets candid about those big delays in Season 2. Which it said, if people see and love the show, ultimately they won't remember the delays, is what Kurtzman says. Nah, I remember the delays. That was part of the problem. I think if it would have hit sooner, it would have been less. There's going to be so much more to watch that's going to be worth it right now than if they just launched when they did. So, and it's pretty bad when your creator basically leaves. Who actually worked on previous Treks. So, and I don't like Kurtzman or Orsi on anything that they work on, separately or together. They're just, I don't like anything they do. Most of their stuff's usually just garbage. They said that it's for visual effects alone, it takes them 4 to 5 months an episode to get done. They're saying many people are waiting with their arms crossed to see if it's going to be worth the money for the stuff. They said, the way I always think is no one ever complains about paying for Game of Thrones. Well, that's not really a good way to think about it. They're saying it's 3 to 4 months an episode to be done from start to finish. And yeah, they're approaching it like they would do the movies, which, okay, whatever. They're saying the second half of the season returns in January so they're going to take a break? That's just dumb. Oh, man. Keep shooting in the foot. It says they're just finishing episode 14 and about to start 15 in production. And they're mixing episode 5. That's crazy. So they also addressed the elephant in the room about the showrunner change. It says, couldn't respect him more and think that his show Hannibal was a work of art. Excited with the idea of what he would do with Trek. If you look at the scope of the show and our show, see, there's two differences there. The scope of the show and our show, how does one juggle both of those things without compromising either? I think Brian's love of Trek led to an understanding that he did not want to be responsible for having it go down on his watch in some fundamental way, which could be code for he saw the ship sinking and he was getting out. Just offering a different perspective on that. It's not necessarily what's going to happen, but yeah. It says they have a larger picture for season 2, and they're said if we're lucky, we'll get to season 2 order. It looks like they're going to keep going with this setup. They're saying with the streaming, they're not going to do 22 episodes. So it sounds like season 2 is going to be more of the same. Like they're going to keep continuing. It's not going to jump time spans. Yeah, I don't know. Do not know. They're saying season 2 could come in 2019, which I'm sorry, but if it's coming in 2019, that's way too dang long. There were shows that did that. Continuum dried up because they went a whole year without having any new episodes. Like they went an entire year and a half, and then they did another season, and then they were dried up another year, and then they did the finale season of 6 episodes, which sucked. They're saying the early side of 2019, which could be code for fall of 2019, the way it's been going. If they're finishing season 1 in the beginning of 2018, wouldn't it make sense that it would start in the fall of 2018 as well? I know they're not going to any particular standard because it's on streaming, but nobody's going to sit around on streaming and wait for the show to come back and then pay them more money. So that's another article. There's another person at Slash Film that says a longtime Trek fan takes on and mostly approves of the new series. Mostly approves. They said it's a lot of old and new colliding, the women of the future. They're saying the Klingons is an area that everybody has a problem with, it looks like. Yeah, I don't know. That seems to be the main problem. They're saying, a lot of them are saying, it's a welcome sight to have it back, but not... There's a lot of stuff to upset viewers in the first 2 episodes. And then they said also, as a quick side, the entire CBS All Access deal needs some work. What's the point of paying around $6 a month for a subscription service if the episodes are still going to be released weekly instead of all at once? Like other subscription services? Why not just show them on TV if we're going to wait a full week for the next episode? Get it together, CBS. I totally get that. Totally. So, with that being said, I'm going to call it a close. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know on Twitter at SCP21. And as always, Warp Factor 10, second star to the right, and straight on till morning. We should have Michael Dodd, Captain Dodd, coming back to the show soon. So for now, Admiral Phillips signing off.